Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. That's this week's comic. Of course I'm going to be talking about spoilers, so be wary of that. If you haven't read the story, and if you want to read it before listening to me talk about it, probably go ahead and do that. But if you don't care about that, then just continue listening to me spoil and talking about the story. But anyways, without further ado, this is Edge of Spider-Verse number 2. Alright, so the story starts off with Gwen arriving because she's going to be playing at this concert with her band. It starts off like any Gwen story. She's running late because, of course, she has to stop this minor crime that's course making her late, and then her dad shows up with a paper bag telling her that Mysterio is going to make an appearance, and he has notified every news station that he's going to show up and cause havoc, I guess. And so, you know, being part of the police, he's gonna be readily available to arrest him or whatnot whenever he gets his ass beat by Gwen. So the band plays, and then Mysterio's gas starts spraying all over the room, and everyone's like freaking out, except for, of course, Gwen and her dad, because they foresaw this coming and they had a mask to wear to protect themselves from the gas. But then she encounters Mysterio, and the fight basically goes, she calls him stupid, and then he goes, "Nuh-uh," and punches her, and she just punches back, breaks his glass thing, gets all webbed up, the cops arrest him, and this is basically all just a way for Mysterio to get, like, to sell his movie rights to, you know, create a movie. His clout chasing, basically. Afterwards, Gwen's band plays with the main event band, because they didn't get a chance to play. And as they're hanging out, Gwen gets stung by a wasp. And that seems to be, you know, part of the main story thing, just wasps. So the Spider UK story starts off with this mayor talking about how great this new green public transport is going to be for the future. And this interview starts asking him about how there's rumors about how the project is being rushed to open and to satisfy investor profits over public safety. Then it cuts to like this other panel where they're digging through the tunnel, and they get to this point where they encounter something, and it's just a giant eyeball. We don't know what it is yet. Meanwhile, in South London, we have Zarina, which is Spider UK, and her friend are playing a video game. They talk about how she typically would be out crime fighting with this organization called WHO, which stands for the Weird Happenings Organization. They just investigate the strange and paranormal, it looks like. But not that very moment, because they say she's fasting for Ramadan. Her friend asks her, "Hey, can I try your earrings?" because she thinks they're cool. And then she brings up how they're the only things keeping this insane surge of electricity from, like, going out of whack. When all of a sudden they hear this loud noise, and they come to find out that there's a dragon out and about. After hearing that there's a dragon out and about, she suits up and climbs out the window. Her friend asks her if she's sure that she's about to go, you know, crime fight this freaking dragon, because she's been fasting, so she doesn't have, you know, the full strength and capabilities that she normally has. But she's like, "F it, dude, I gotta do this." So she jumps out and goes into action. Here then she meets the dragon. She starts fighting it. She talks about how the dragon smells horrible, like a festival bathroom. You know, I'm assuming she's referring to the porta potties, which I can imagine. That shit smells nasty. She witnesses the dragon just completely barf on a group of people, which ends up mutating them to look like humanoid winged demons, is probably the best way I can describe it. And they go off, flying off. After they fly off, we got Spider UK. She jumps down to the barf and picks up a sample because she wants to test it to try to come up with like a way to reverse their mutation. And then in this moment, they show off that she has this vintage leather jacket with extra dimensional pockets. And I guess she's able to store whatever the hell she wants in those pockets, which is crazy. We've never seen that before. When all of a sudden one of those demon mutations shows up to try to fuck with her, and she thwips it up. She claims that the more he struggles, the tighter the webs are gonna get. But of course, he just breaks free and starts running at her. She's freaking the hell out and reaches into her coat pocket and brings out a flashbang. Disorients the mutated dude, and she escapes into the sewer. When she's in the sewer, she ends up regrouping with her Who teammates, and then we get this variation of the Alistair character who is working with her, part of the Who. He ends up making this cure for the mutants, which she's able to shoot from this also wrist launcher that he created for her. And then she leaves back to the fight to try and turn people back and, fight the dragon. When she encounters the dragon, it's eating just everything. She tries to shoot one of the tranquilizer darts that she was given at it, and it just flies away. So she tries webbing its foot to try to yank him back, but because she's been fasting and doesn't have as much strength as she normally would have, she's struggling with it. I'm assuming normally this would be a piece of cake for her, probably. The dragon decides to start flying, though. She's getting dragged along. They're about to hit a building, but the dragon pulls up, but she's about to splat into it because of physics. When she decides to let go, she starts falling, and her earrings, this is where they describe a ton of sciencey mumbo-jumbo. So because her earrings were holding back a lot of electricity energy, she managed to take them off, which allows her to glide using the static electricity in the atmosphere or something. Like I said, to glide. And then you can tell the writer referenced Toy Story here because they just straight up quoted, "It's more like falling with style." And ends up landing right in front of her Who teammate. And then her teammate presses a button that sounds this alarm to summon the mutants to fly in their direction. As they're getting closer, she releases this gas with the vaccine, this cure, to change them back from, the mutant state that they're in. But they blow the smoke away using their wings, so that plan didn't work, and then they're left wide open. In this moment, Spider-UK is in her head thinking, yep, we're about to die. Because I'm fasting during Ramadan, if I die during it, I'm guaranteed a ticket to paradise because of her religion. But then out of nowhere, she releases this large spewge of webbing that stops their attack. And then she describes it as apparently a fight or flight instinct, where her body just secretes webbing, and she considers that an embarrassing ability to have. But they bring up the fact that she's low on energy, she's low on webs, there's not much she can do. But Spider-UK's yeah, we've exhausted every ability that I have, except for my bioelectrical energy. And so she releases all of that energy, it's just, which ends up just screwing over all these mutants, or not screwing over, beating them basically, which then they take in the gas and change back right away back to their human selves. And then they fist bump. They did it. They changed everyone back. And then we go back to the dragon that's just flying around. At this point, the military shows up and they just gun it down. Or they don't gun it down. They spray the same gas that they, used on the mutants to just tranquilize the dragon. So it's just sitting there in a net and they're carrying it off. And apparently it's going off to S.H.I.E.L.D. because they called dibs on it. So at this point, that basically ends. Her alarm goes off saying that Ramadan's over and she can finally go back to eating. So she goes off on her merry way and starts snacking on a snack that she saved. When all of a sudden Madam Web shows up and she's like, yeah, dude, the fate of every spider's in jeopardy and you gotta come with me and whatnot. Spider-UK agrees, but of course she's hungry, so she wants to go eat a falafel before she heads off into the Spider-Verse. Alright, and then we get to our Shathra story. In the next story, this one actually moves the main Spider-Verse story forward. Loom World, Earth-001. We have Annie Mae, Spider. She's just checking out the Spider-Verse web, and she comes across the very first spider ever strand, where she gets to see the history of how this first got started. And it tells the story about these two sisters. One of them is younger, the other one's, of course, older. The older sister is the one that gets tasked with creating this whole civilization for humanity with all these, webs and whatnot. But her version of it was this wasp nest. She was all stressed out, supposedly, with a lot of expectations to meet. So the younger sister shows up and tells her to relax and to have fun with it. And that's when she starts showing her, like, oh, do it like this. And she starts shooting webs, how Spider-Man does it. And creates just this web on a tree. When the mothers show up, they see that the older sister is having a horrible moment, and they just alleviate her from the stress of having to create this humanity sort of thing, Spider-Verse version, but with her wasp nest image. When they pass that burden onto the younger sister, because she seemed to be having fun with it. So they leave her to do the task, and once she completes it, they show it off to the gods. The older sister questions what the creatures crawling all over the place are, and the younger sister just calls them spiders. That's what they are. They're meant to affix any sort of strands that break and whatnot. As everyone leaves, this older sister starts getting fueled with rage. She feels jealous that the younger sister's getting all this attention, and then she sends out one of her wasps to go sting this spider and set her own image onto that very first strand that was set, so that once it gets eventually plucked, she would be released during that time period. And at this point, that's when Annie Mae, I guess, plucks it by accident or messes with it, and that's when Shathra gets released and sends her wasps to sting Annie Mae, and looks like ends up creating a personal minion of her own image. And that's where that story ends. And then finally there's like a 1-page story. It's like a very simplified story created just for fun, where there's like multiple different universe Spider-Man showing up, and then mainline Spider-Man is just pissed off because of all the crazy multiverse shenanigans that are happening. And I feel like this is just like a funny way at poking at basically any super nerd getting mad over the fact that there's a lot of multiverse shenanigans happening at the moment with comics. And that's where that comic ends. Alright, this issue wasn't so bad. The Gwen story was pretty ass, not gonna lie, pretty boring. I don't know, 6 pages, they were given quite a bit to actually tell an okay-ish story, but it was very oversimplified. It felt like cookie cutter, hey, this is Gwen, do this kind of deal. Nothing much happened. But I really liked the Spider UK story. That one introduced quite a bit of Spider UK in this specific universe's lore. She was very interesting. I like that story. And then we finally get introduced to the villain of this Spider-Verse story. The whole thing about the wasps. Yeah, Shathra's origin is basically just... yeah, she's going out of her way to just destroy her younger sister's creation because she feels jealous. She wants to basically ruin it for someone else because of her own insecurities, it looks like. That seems to be the kind of villain that we're dealing with here. But anyways, yeah, if you enjoyed me babbling on about this second issue, and you probably want to hear me babble on about the third issue, just hit the like and subscribe. I don't know. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.